Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. For today's video, I wanted to do an episode today on the top signs that are associated with a narcissist. So typically they use top 9 signs, and at least 5 have to be related to the individual to be considered a narcissist, as far as maybe a diagnosis. But there are extended versions. I did grab one that had 14 signs, so I want to go through these real quick with you, so let's jump in. So the first one here is going to be grandiosity, and grandiosity is going to be impressive or imposing in appearance, style, pretentious, excessive. It's going to be grand or ambitious and bold. But the thing about it is, this is how they're going to present themselves to new individuals. But the thing is this is all fake. It's all facade, and it's all their entrance to a situation. It's overcompensating anytime that you are wearing a mask. And when it comes to the narcissist, anytime they leave the house, they're wearing a mask. I mean, the true them is going to be the one you see behind closed doors. That's going to be them partially with their mask off when they're abusing you. I mean, typically, if it's a woman narcissist that, like, for instance, I've dealt with on several occasions, it was, just verbal abuse, spiritual abuse, psychological. And it would affect every area of your life, but it wouldn't be physical, but it would show physically. So for women, it's much worse if they're dealing, of course, with men narcissists, because women are just, generally speaking, more petite. They're just not built for, nobody's built for this, for physical abuse. I'm not saying that any of it's right, but for women, it just makes it so much worse, because you can be really threatened to where, if a man is dealing with a female narcissist, it's going to be threatening in other ways. The abuse that you're going to get that's going to be more threatening is they're exploiting the way they use people to hurt you. They all do this though, but I think typically you might experience that on a higher level most of the time from a female narcissist, but not always, because a lot of times male narcissists are very much so like the female narcissist. And generally what you find is the male narcissist is going to be soft and the female narcissist is going to be hard. It's almost like a switched masculine and femininity. And I'm not making that up. That's something you'll find across the board. They would generally say that when a male narcissist is afraid of men, other men, he doesn't want to get in an argument where it could turn into a altercation, literally, with another man, because they're soft. They're scared to deal with confrontation like that, which anybody should be reserved. It's not something that you want to do, but what they say is, and I believe it, the male narcissist will start the fight, and the female narcissist will be the one to take care of the battle. And that's what I've actually seen. I've seen that, because you find that the female narcissist has a whole lot of testosterone. And I think it's in relation to the fight or flight. Because they're in fight or flight, they typically will deal with hormones are going to be more related. They're going to deal with the hormones more related to a man, which would be in relation to testosterone, a lower estrogen level. For the man, not always, but generally it may be because they grew up more with a single mother, but that doesn't necessarily make you soft. But I guess it can. You're going to typically find, more typically, a man that's going to be a male narcissist going to be a chef more than somebody that's a male narcissist construction worker or something. And there's nothing wrong with that. We're just going over the different concepts. And the one that raises the child, mainly, if you had to pick, is going to be, so that was like 2 narcissists together, but in a single situation, you normally find an empath with a narcissist, or a toxic enabler, which would be more empathic on that side. But they get so toxic as well, and they get exploitative. So what you'll find is the one they grow up with is going to be the one that they're going to be looking at the one they grew up with as the weaker one, because that's the one that takes care of them. You see, they'll tell you they love them, but what they will show is they really feel like that one is the one that lost the battle, the weak one. So they got to overcompensate to act like the one that's not in the home, the bully. So on this situation, you have to get 5 out of 9. So you have grandiosity, and then you have a preoccupation with fantasies. Of course, they take you into a fantasy as soon as they meet you. And they're in a fantasy all the time because they're always fake. They have no true self, so they have to imitate, copycat. They have to take on somebody else's essence all the time and become a skinwalker. They're always lying. Every sentence has some sort of lie in it. That's what they live their life around. They just believe their lies. At some point, you just believe the lies. And they do. When you don't have a true self, you have to believe the lies and the fantasy. They build a fantasy of what they believe their life should be, and then they make it that. And then they have to make you believe they are that. But a lot of times what they do is they will lie to you about their complete history and keep you away from people from their childhood or their background, if they can. It may take you a long time before you actually meet people that rub shoulders with them from, say, years ago. Because if you sat down with them for 5 minutes, the people that do know them, there would be a whole different backdrop of a story from what they told you. They might tell you they're high society or they come from high affluency, and they didn't at all. They could have grown up poor, but who cares, right? But to them, it's like they have to be important. And what they do is they take pieces of everybody. All the people they ever dated, like let's say they dated 200 or 300 people, and they're like 40. Well, those 200 people, I call them a 1,000-piece puzzle. And I do, because what they do is they take a little chunk of your story and a little chunk of this story, and they take the real, maybe the grandiose pieces of your life that you explain to them. Like you had certain things that happened and occurred in your life, and it was like either pretty amazing, you might have had a couple of those, or you might have had some strong, tough times in your life where you had to push through and be a soldier. So you'll tell them all these stories because they're going to be telling you vulnerable stories as well, but they're going to be a lie. And when they tell you those stories, you're going to tell them some of yours, just getting to know somebody or whatever. But yours are going to be real. Yours are going to be like real situations that you went through. So what they're going to do is take those pieces of those stories that you told, and they're going to add them to their conglomerate of all these other people's stories that they liked. So the next person that they go to date, piece of their puzzle, of their story, of their backdrop story, is going to have a little bit of you in there. Your story. But they're going to claim that it's theirs. And I've even heard people say, and this is true, I've seen this or dealt with this when I was younger with friends, but you'll have somebody that will tell a story early in the morning about how they just went to another country and they petted a lion. And then they came back, and they were telling the story. And if narcissists are hearing it, sitting around hearing it with them, they'll go out that same night and tell this exact same story that evening, that it was them. I just got back from, wherever, and I was able to pet a lion. And it's like, wow. But they typically wouldn't do it with somebody that was there with them, that quickly if you were with them all day. But I'm saying if you were a fly in the wall, that's what you would see. That's what you would hear. If it's good enough, they're just going to add it it's just something to add to these fantasies because they got to make themselves seem so important. So with the grandiosity, they come in and it's an insecurity, really. They do it as compensation. So everything the mask is a compensation for some unhealed wound. So when they're grandiose, they're just faking that they're insecure because they can't be real. So they got to come in and act like they own the room, like they are high society or they've struggled, either one. Either they were the victim or they were the savior or they were the hero or the martyr. These are the ways they act. And that's what they flip from. But they like to be the victim because if they be the victim, there's less energy when they come into a new relationship. If they play the hero in a new relationship, typically they have to spend more money and they're pumping you up or something. They're preoccupied with fantasies. They take you into a fantasy. They tell you all these lies and then they get you believing them and then they become you. And that's how it works. When you start bucking back with them, when you run out of fuel and energy, it's because you're not believing the fantasy anymore. You're like, I've had enough, y'all. And you're not validating them anymore. You're not being nice to them anymore because they have taken you for a ride for the last 3 months and you're wore out. And they keep pushing and pushing and pushing. They're insatiable and they don't know how to stop. They don't know when to stop. And they think people are going to be there forever. And that's the problem with the narcissist. That's one of the problems with the narcissist. They think you're never going to leave. And then when you leave, they don't believe it. So next, they have a belief of being special. They believe that God created them, and it's not that we are all special in our own way. Yes, and we are individuals. We have our own fingerprint. We have our own personality. But what's interesting is the narcissist doesn't have any of that because they've sacrificed it. So they're continually copycatting everybody else's essence, everybody else's fingerprint, everybody else's personality, everybody else's laugh, the way they look, whatever. And they think they're special. And that's bizarre. But in humanity, we do think we're special. I mean, as far as we're just happy to be on the earth because we know how many seeds are planted in pregnancy, man, and how many make it. It's like 1 out of millions or something. So, I mean, you could just look at it however you want, but we're kind of, I guess, humble with it because it's not really necessary. We just kind of look at each other as we're all equal. Generally speaking, humanity should look at each other as we're all equal, a healthy individual, and we're all the same. And if you're poor or if you're rich, we should all be able to mingle, at least on some level. Doesn't mean we're going to be together all the time because there may be differences and there may be some of these things or narcissistic ways, not necessarily narcissists. So there could be differences, but these guys just think that they're God's gift. They feel like they need to be the one in control. They need to be the leader, and they don't know shit. They have no common sense, no creativity. The only creativity they have is thieving because, like I said, they're 3D and down. So if they're going to be thieving and lying, cheating, stealing, boy, they come up with a great story. What a movie that is. Wow. And it never ends. That's why if you want somebody to make a TV series for you, you get a narcissist to do it because whenever that first lie doesn't work, they're going to build you a whole nother lie right behind it. So that'll be episode 2, at least. I mean, they just keep going with you. And they'll just double down, double down, double down. And that's what they are. They're a one-trick pony. And once you come to that understanding and you break that spell, you know, a lot of times you think they're going to change, they're going to change, they're going to change. You're going to be the only one that's going to change the narcissist in the whole world ever because they don't change. It's interesting how we can believe that lie so many times because they bold-faced lie to you. That's interesting because humanity doesn't lie like that. We would tell white lies. Like, did you drink your water today? Yeah, I did. But maybe you did. I mean, like, I'm just saying that's something that humanity would tell and they'd be like, yeah, whatever, you know. I'm not killing anybody, you know, I'm not hurting anybody. And chances are their spouse or girlfriend, whoever it is gonna know they're not they're BSing them. I mean, it's almost a joke typically between the two of you when you're talking about things like, did you drink your water today? Or something like that. You didn't eat ice cream again, did you? So it's my thing, you know, ice cream. It never was until a few years ago. I'll find myself eating ice cream and then covering it up in the trash can. Now that is a maladaptive way for sure, but I still can't stop it sometimes. Sometimes I don't care, but. So next is excessive need for admiration. They got to be admired. They got to be validated and admired and petted all the time. We all know that. And then a sense of entitlement. They're just entitled. They own you. Remember, I said this several times in the last week or two. They own you once they start dating you and you're their property for life. It's like ridiculous. And they can't get off of that. That's why for the rest of your life, if they can find your phone number, they'll call you. Every year or 2 years or 5 years or 10 years, they'll keep up with you on your social medias, on Instagram, Facebook, or whatever. They're going to find a way. I call them the CIA because a narcissist is relentless, man. All they do is if they work a job, they work a job. Outside of that, they don't take care of kids. They don't care about cleaning up. They don't do anything with their partner because they don't like them. All they do is then after they go to work, they come home and devise evil plans to seduce whatever their current supply sources are and come up with stupid stories, man, to fool people, trick people, thieve from them. I mean, that's it. Talk to them on the phone, gossip, everything to create problems. They are problem creators all day long. They're mayhem. They should be on that commercial, Progressive or something. They definitely need more insurance if you're, if you're with a narcissist. And LifeLock. Son of a bitch. Next would be, okay, interpersonally exploitative. So when you're with the narcissist, and even if you are with them for a while, they're going to exploit everything about you. It doesn't. You get to a point to where you don't want to tell them anything intimate, or any. You don't want to be vulnerable with them, and they're supposed to be your love partner, because you know they're going to use it against you. Maybe not today, but as soon as you piss them off, and they'll be threatening you right away. And that is really crappy, man. I should be able to tell you as my intimate partner, and you're in my intimate circle, me and you. I should be able to tell you everything and not ever feel threatened that you're going to somehow at some point in time use it against me. And it's not even something that's illegal. It would just be something that maybe you're embarrassed about, or, but they'll add stuff to it and make it real big issues depending on how much you pissed them off. And it's like these people, that's why I say they should be locked up and throw away the key, some of them, a lot of them, because they create so many problems by lying, and they're relentless. They'll go everywhere and tell everybody, and they'll be confident about it because they can lie straight to your face. That's what I'm saying. You might lie about how much water you drank today with your significant other, but they'll lie to you about where they were all day today. And this is on a regular basis because they're doing something every day bad. They might have been screwing somebody behind the dumpster. They're opportunists, so they'll do anything. They'll lay down on the railroad tracks or something. They can get a quickie. I mean, really, it's ridiculous. And what I've noticed is when you go back to a narcissist after you've learned boundaries and you try to, I went back to mine one time after I realized it was narcissism in the early stages. She came back and I took her back and I was like, okay, well, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to build boundaries with her. Anytime she tries to get in my space or do something stupid, I'm going to shut her down. It was all day long. It was to the point to where you'll have a fight. You'll just have a disagreement to where you'll just shut them off. And it will be every day. You can't live like that. You have to drop your boundaries. But people will talk about that if you can build strong boundaries around them. Man, you need a lot of psychological and medical help before a narcissist is going to give way to that. But I tried to do it, and it was every day. It would be like, if I don't let these boundaries down, we're going to have another crappy day because she's not going to give up. And then she's going to argue with me, break up with me, and run to somebody else this evening. I mean, really. And I let that happen. That was toward the end because I am not going to get walked all over. And at that point, you don't know, and you don't know what diagnoses, or you don't know about narcissism because you haven't put them together because nobody talks about it. It's like you don't know. You can only question what you're seeing and what they're telling you, and how bold-faced of lies they give you. If your intuition's on point, it helps a lot. But they are so bold with it and then double down on it. Like, you don't believe me? Well, call them. I mean, like, no, I'm not calling somebody. But they expect for you to not call their bluff. So these are things they'll do, man. And they get you so attached to them because, like I said, the energetic core is like this because they're always moving your energy around, that you do get addicted to them. And it's not like that in a regular relationship. You can just go your separate ways. We can be friends to some degree. I don't think it's healthy for you to be friends with exes, really. But with a narcissist, you can't. They will push that note too until you're in trouble, until you're somehow they'll come up with some story, put in damn prison or something a year down the road for being just their friend, and they're still pissed off at you. So they're going to exploit it. They also lack empathy. So in my opinion, they don't have any empathy. They fake it. And that's why they have to steal your fruits of the spirit, because the one that's the main vein that leads to all the other 8, they all branch off of love. And mine even told me I was never taught love. That's the weirdest thing. There's a couple things the narcissist said to me that was the weirdest thing. One of them was, I never was taught to love. I don't care if you were taught to, I wasn't taught to love. And if you don't get it in the home, you're going to get it out there somewhere. You're going to see, and you're going to have some sort of intuitive measure that's going to tell you that that should be. You could be jaded or something, but to say you never understand love at all, that to me was like bizarre. And that was, and the other thing that was bizarre to me was when she told me that, that she didn't have a type. And I was like, you don't have a type? And she's like, no. And that to me was freaking bizarre, y'all. Because I think we all have an idea of what we like and what we're attracted to. When she told me that, because she was talking about somebody a lot older than her that she had seen. It was when we were brand new or whatever. And I remember sitting back and like, I was in awe. Like I was dumbfounded. Like I was speaking to an alien or something. And a lot of times I would get that. I was waking up because I had so many of them in my life. And it was like they move like the other ones, you know? They don't move the same. They don't operate the same. And when you're faking, your mannerisms are fake too. Or you know what you're seeing is the energy they stole from somebody else and they're wearing it and it doesn't match up with who they are. And you're spiritually kind of seeing that in the physical. Like that's not their energy. You know what I mean? It's like it's something, man. They don't feel empathy. So they don't feel remorseful a lot of times. They can go out and they could do it behind the dumpster and lay down on the train tracks real quick for a quickie and then come home and just dry the sweat off their brow, man, and sit down as if it never happened. You are what they say, they're black and white thinkers. You're all good or all bad. And when you're with them for a long period of time as a primary source, you're in devalue mode consistently, constantly, and they'll give you a little breadcrumb here and there to keep you. But what they also say is that's how they are when they leave you. Out of sight is out of mind. So if they're married to you, when they go down the street, they forget they're married to you until they drive back home. Then they remember. So anything that happens after they get off the block, they have no problem forgetting it. It's almost second nature to them. So how do you trust somebody like that? The other one is they envy others and they think other people are envious of them. And that's not the case. In some cases, that is true because they, generally speaking, come in a pack of wolves. When you meet one narcissist, next thing you know, there's going to be 12 around because they have flying monkeys. And flying monkeys are other narcissists. They're underling narcissists. Whoever's running all the flying monkeys is going to be the head narcissist, the one every narcissist in the house or in the cult or whatever is looking up to as their leader. And that might be an overt narcissist. And they may be coverts or antisocials. And you may find avoidance in there too. I'm not saying avoidance really think evil, but they end up hanging out with narcissists more often because they do seem to operate in some ways like them. So they get kind of caught up with them more often. And then they become more avoidant. That's true. But they envy others. And their envy is this. They come in when they meet you and they want you to teach them how you do it. You're going to solve all their problems. You're white thinking now. You're not all black. It's black and white thinking, right? So you're all right. All right. You're all right. You're their God. You're their, you're the ideal partner. And they love the heck out of you in the infatuation stage of love bombing. And they put you on a pedestal and they're all infatuated and excited and dopamine's kicking. And you're giving them back the same amount of love because they haven't destroyed you yet. So you're not aware. And you're the shiny new toy. But then when they can't have the same talents as you, because they come with no talents, no positive ones. Now, when you get into the dark nature of things, they have talents to thieve, lie like nobody's business, cheat, and get away with it. But then they start to envy you. So first they believe that they could find the shortcut to becoming like you, learning it, learning to be just like you. Will you teach them? That's what they're looking like. But then after the infatuation wears off, they realize it's going to take a lot of hard work to be like him or her. And I don't have the time for that. Hey, I got another idea. Let me just become them and steal their essence, just like I did with everyone else in my past. And it's like they forget what they did to the last person and the last one, and the last one, and the last one. It's like that's how a lesser narcissist may not even know they're a narcissist. It's like they don't keep up with what they do pattern wise, or they kind of do, but they have this new hope, what they call the hopeless romantic. That's a narcissist. That's what they deem themselves as. That's what they associate with. That's not them, though. They're not romantic at all. But with the grandiosity and stuff, they can put it on in the very beginning, really look like they are. And they have good slogans that they memorize because it's all fake. They watch movies and they will act out like the actors. And it's not because they want to be, you know, joking around and be, comic with it. No, they're going to use it on their next supply source. They'll watch some Marilyn Monroe movie or something, or I'm just kidding. It's like whatever, Holly Berry or something, man, or Beyonce, and they're going to go out there and they're going to mimic all of these sayings and slogans and the way they do it, the way they enunciate it, the way they move, and they're going to go out there and perform that. They're performers. They're performers. And the next one is they're arrogant in their behaviors and attitudes. I mean, we all know that. As soon as you piss them off, they're arrogant. Or they'll be passive aggressive, and that's arrogant. I'm going to get your ass back. Give me till tomorrow. I'm going to F you up. So some of these other ones were, oh, and then on the envious thing, so they want to become you. So they start projecting onto you and stealing your energy, and then they start mimicking you, and then they start dressing like you. That's weird. And then they start trying to get you to believe that you're them so that they can convince you that you're shitty. And that's part of how they get you to keep validating them. It's very spiritual, but it's witchcraft. Then they want to leave you and they want you to chase them, and then they want to triangulate you between you and their new source of supply, and then sit back and let you two fight amongst each other and fight for them. And they get supply fuel off of that, and you get broke down even more if you feed into it. If you don't, the new supply source has to pay for it. So then they'll try to triangulate you, and if it doesn't work, then they start telling the new source supply how great the old source was. They'll be defending you and backing you up. It's weird. And then their love bomb phase is over, short. You get to like beating the crap out of them with either words or their whatever. So other ones, they have problem handling criticism or constructive criticism, anything like that. They look at you like you're arrogant for just trying to help them. Let me help you. Help me help you. Remember Jerry Maguire? They're superficial relationships. They don't last long because they don't feel the 9 fruits of the Spirit. They have no true self. They can't get deep with any conversation. And if you question anything or in the conversation to, help them to elaborate or allude to something, and they don't know the answer, then they're going to rage out on you. It's like, what the hell, man? Everything is some sort of scheme with them. They don't have accountability. They never stand up and accept what they've done and apologize. They're too arrogant. They will never apologize unless they have a court order. Man, I've had people do so many things to me over the last 2 years, you wouldn't believe it. And I haven't got one apology. And this is over like 20 or 30 people involved in this thing, maybe more. Might be like 50, 100, who knows? It's a lot. Manipulative behavior. They'll be lying to you and stealing out of your bank account or something with their new source of supply somehow because they're some hacker. I mean, they'll do anything. They stole a lot of they were able to hack into my channel and steal my channel material, and they sold it to somebody, literally, for a contract. I didn't sign that. I'm going to see them in court eventually, and they're made buku's money off it. That's what I hear. That's crappy. And they have no problem resting their head at night as long as they don't get caught. And then when they get caught, they play the victim. And they want you to bail them out. When they broke you, took all your money. Or whatever. wrecked your whole life. And a lot of times the empath will do it. Really. I wouldn't, if I was a lawyer, I wouldn't represent them. I wouldn't give them a plate of food. I wouldn't give them 10 cents because then they might call that a contract as well. They're, they're horrible, man. They need to be locked up, man, for real. They're obsessed with status and appearance. I mean, they will look impeccable sometimes, some of them. Some of them look dirty all the time and all that because they may have too many entities dealing with them. Especially when they have low supply sources, they will come in stinking and everything. Like they need a shower or something. They haven't showered in a week or something. You know, maybe you haven't brushed your teeth. You'll know when their supply's running low because they will come in looking like crap, smelling, and their breath be smelling and everything. And they'll be willing to do anything. Of course, to get your fuel, and you don't really get it yet. And inability to maintain healthy relationships is the other one. We all know that doesn't last. And if it does, it's because you're giving them everything you got. Blood, sweat, tears, energy, money, everything. And it still ain't working. It'll just stave it off a little bit longer. You're going to be freaking out of everything. They will destroy you. And then dance on your grave and get your inheritance and your life insurance policy that they got out on you. Really, and dance on your grave. But they'll get all the sympathy for at the funeral. I tried to help them. They needed help, and I tried to help them, but it didn't work. And everybody be letting them cry on their shoulder. They'll take that supply, and then when everybody leaves, they'll dance on the grave and mock you and spit on your grave while they take your life insurance money and inheritance, and they'll spend it. They're shitty, man. Anyway, that's all. That's around the 14, and you need at least 5 of those to be eligible to be in the group called narcissism. So if you want to get initiated into narcissism, just act like some of these. And they have a badge you can get. I am a narcissist. Just kidding. Anyway, have a great day, y'all.